I'm delighted today to welcome the director of About Love, Archana Phadke, a beautiful essay on modern day Mumbai and family and everything else that you can think of. And it is my pleasure to be able to have the opportunity to talk to Archana in detail about a film. Welcome, Archana.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be here. I'm doing this Q&A after so long. This is going to be fun. Yeah.
Yeah, we're really looking forward to hearing people's reactions to the film. So I want to dive straight in and ask you, what made you make this extraordinary documentary?
Um, I think I had gone crazy to first take on this thing that, oh, let me shoot my family. It's like I thought in the beginning, especially in the first 6 months, this is the worst thing I have done. I'm there all the time. And no, so it was like it's as a first film, I think one wants to make films about something that is closest to them. And for me, it was my family. So I think I knew this space. I thought I knew the story I wanted to tell. That's not what happened, but that I thought I knew the story I was going to tell. It kind of came from this personal question of what is love. And I think there can be like 1,000 films made on this subject, but I thought let me question my own love story, with my family. And that's where it kind of all begun.
So I think, for people who don't know yet, who haven't seen the film, because they've got an opportunity to watch the whole weekend, I love the way that you start the film, because you somehow marry the personal by having your sister pick you up and bring you, but we get to see the evolving skyline of Mumbai and South Bombay and all that sort of thing. Was that, when you were editing, did you have several beginnings and that then became the beginning?
Yeah, for sure. Like that was a scene I kind of shot a bit later. And I'd always, first I had thought, let me just flow with the characters, let's see where they go, etc., etc. So um, one thing that I have maintained in the film is that I've never stepped out of the building, maybe just once or twice. One is in the beginning and once is when they go to find the wedding cards, really. But at one point when I was filming, I kind of realized that this is my universe and I shouldn't step out of it, because that was also creating this weird kind of claustrophobia for the mother's character, staying inside the space. So then it just used to, I was carrying my camera everywhere I went with every character. So it was just that me and my sister had gone for a drive, and then I thought, I should film this and let's see. I didn't have a beginning yet. I had no idea how to start the film. I have to establish that there is this building and there is this, and it just, on that day, everything just fit. I didn't have to do much. Like, she spoke about herself. She said, oh, let's sing this song. And we were entering our lane, and then the building came. And so I said, oh, great. Like, while filming itself, I was like, yeah. I think I have the beginning of the film. So it was that kind of thing. But in the first, I thought I'll start with these very typical shots of the building exterior and everything. But I'm glad that this is the one we kind of, from the outside, we kind of invited ourselves inside. So it
I
happened
think,
very organically. So that was great. Yeah.
yeah, it was very organic, and I think somehow it allows me, the viewer, to enter the world. You give us this opportunity to be outside the Phadke household, if you like, and then suddenly we're sort of brought in. And as you say, apart from the wedding invitation card selection scene, which I love,
Yeah.
and all those sort of tussles that go on, we are allowed to enter that universe, and it gives us permission, if you like, to stay and be with it. So
Yeah.
it worked well. Achana, I wonder, just going back, I mean, what's your background? Because I saw this at Sheffield. I was blown away by the film, and I really, and not surprised to see that you got the New Talent Award at all. What I wanted to ask was, what's your background? Did you go to film school? Did you make lots of documentaries before? What's the story?
So I actually studied biotechnology, and I had done this internship in this institute here, who's actually making the COVID vaccine in India. So It was a very so I was working in a lab, and I had this 9 to 6 kind of internship where I was testing a lot of medicines on animals, and then I realized while doing that that is something I don't want to do. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but this I was like, okay, this is something I definitely don't want to do. So it was my mom who kind of suggested that, oh, why don't you, like, there's this little course in TV video production, like this part-time kind of thing. Why don't you just explore it? So I was like, okay, shit, like I've studied something else, but I need to like now do something completely different. Okay, let's try. But my mom was like, no, no, you will love it. She was very confident that it's I used to always love painting and stuff. So she thought I should do something in the arts, and she made me join this. And I used to love photography in that course. And that's when I was actually first exposed to world cinema. I had never seen, I was only seeing Bollywood films. So I had kind of grown my idea of love, my idea of anything was coming from Bollywood. And then suddenly I saw these other films which I've never seen before. So yeah, so then I kind of started making my own short films, just trial and error kind of thing. So my first film that I made, and I kind of did some animation for that film and edited it, and that played in Rotterdam. So that was the first time. Again, then I knew that there is a universe outside India, and there's this festival world. I didn't even know how big Rotterdam is, or none of that. Like, we just landed there, and it was that sort of thing. And but then I kind of understood how there's an audience not just in India but outside India also for your films, really. So then me and my partner, who's my producer on About Love, actually, we made another documentary which took us 4 years to make, which I edited, produced. It's called Placebo, which had actually played in IDFA. And yeah, so we kind of took 4 years to make that. Once that got done, I was like, and that was a very kind of an experimental documentary. It like combines animation with live action. So this time I was like, no, I want to make a simple film, really simple, where there's not formal intervention, nothing of that sort. And then it was like right in front of me, my family's story. And so About Love also took me another 4 years to make, like, in total. So it was that documentary and this.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you actually, how long did you film? Because we have this wonderful, first of all, you have filmed in a very observational way, which is much more challenging than pasting voice over everything and stringing scenes together, which we're very used to now with reality TV. The discipline involved in filming observation is obvious, but I'm staggered that you were able to construct this narrative, because it's clear we're with them for a long time, which of course is a great privilege for us as a viewer, to have the access to your family in this way. 4 years, did they just get sick of you with the camera and never see it after a while?
Actually, the interesting thing was that when I was learning filmmaking, I was always with a camera, at my house. I used to be experimenting. Oh, let me take this shot out of focus and that. And, when you're learning how to film or something. So it was always my family members who were like, put in that shot because I wanted to practice. So it wasn't weird for them that I have now re-entered their space and I'm filming every day. Also, I early on chose to shoot the entire film on a camcorder to give it this home video feel. But at the same time, I took a high-end camcorder, but very small in size. So I knew that I don't want the size of the camera to be intrusive in this space. It should almost be like it's not there. So they didn't notice. I have been able to literally use my footage from day one. I didn't have to get them used to the camera, nothing. So they just kind of saw it as an extension of me from the very beginning, which kind of really worked, because a lot of times in documentary, you have to take the first month to really make your characters comfortable with the camera, to make the I didn't have to do any of that. So I was really lucky in that regard, that they were just themselves. They never like, oh, shut the camera. My brother was quite conscious, because I feel the younger generation is very aware of a camera because of the phones and everything. Whereas the older generation, they just like, they didn't see it, or I don't know what, like they didn't just mind me filming anything and everything.
So that's, yeah, what is really clear is that there's no filter. So they're just being themselves and talking to you and themselves, and you're just there, and they don't care. It's wonderful because it allows us to fall in love with everybody in the film. And I love that it's called About Love, because it means that we do reflect on the kind of complexity. And as you might or might not realize, the introduction to this film from our partner, the Book Festival, they feel like it's such an exquisite opportunity to fall in love with all the different people in the family, because we all have really complicated relationships, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And
So, yeah.
sorry, Achana.
No, I was just saying that I took like 2.5 years to film, and I was editing simultaneously, but I took another year and a half to properly edit and take breaks and edit again. It's just that I knew that if I film them for less than that amount of time, I won't see a graph in the characters, because they're mostly like there already. Their lives are, the real graph was in my mother's character. You know, she's the only one who wanted to change, whereas the others, they don't change really through the film. They're just like that. So when I kind of, a year into filming is the first time she opened up to me. So that took time. In fact, she was the most closed person in the, everyone else was very just there, you know, there were no filters. With my mom, she might be behaving very free, but then suddenly just that little one moment where she says that I need those 10 minutes for myself in a day. And that was the change, you know, that she wants, she has an aspiration which is internal. She doesn't want to buy things, or, you know, she doesn't have those kind of, there's an internal conflict. And I realized a year into filming that. So just the fact that she even writes a book, I was unaware of it until yeah, I didn't know. I had no idea. I was like, okay, this is what she does.
So I just want to be really clear. You were filming your mum for a whole year and you had no idea that she was writing a book.
No, I had no idea, because I never asked her. Because what was happening was I prioritized filming my grandparents, because I know that they are old, and you know, this time is special with them. So I used to film a bit with my mom all the time, but she had this secret time that she had alone in the afternoon. That's when I used to be with my grandparents all the time. So I had no idea. So one day I just was hanging out with her, and she was on the computer writing something, all the time writing on her phone, all the time writing. I was like, what is it that you're writing? That's when, still she didn't tell me. She told me like 2 months later what she's really doing. You know, she was like, I think she was conscious of telling me. But I think the camera kind of brought us closer, you know, in a way, because I was now, because of the presence of the camera, suddenly I was interested in her life. Before that, you know, it's like, oh yeah, mom, she's doing her own thing. You know, we are not really interested in what she's, as long as like, I don't want to sound like weird, but it's like, you know, as long as she's available when I want her, everything was fine. But then suddenly I started asking her questions, and then she was like, okay, my daughter's interested in my life, she's interested in my aspirations. And that's when she kind of, that's when she opened up to me, you know, which was great.
So your mum, I think, is the secret star of the film.
Yeah.
She is this really beautiful internal thread that drives much of why we think more deeply about what we see, as all of us have our moments with our family. And I think it's very interesting you say you suddenly became interested in your mother differently, because of course our mothers, you know, we all have our relationship with our parents, and we probably don't look at them very deeply in some ways.
Yeah, and you know, this is very interesting that at another festival that somebody told me this, that I just said this, that, you know, suddenly I started seeing her not as my mom, but as a person. I suddenly, that role that I had decided to put her in disappeared, and I started seeing her like as this human being who has their own hopes and aspirations, their own dreams, their own sorrows, everything. So suddenly she became, you know, like this person, and she was just my mom, and now she was this person. So somebody told me like that it's very lucky, you're very lucky that this has happened to you early in life, because most of us realize this much later. So I feel, in fact, with the film, that this is the best thing that happened, is that I kind of was able to develop this new way of looking, not, and because I looked at her suddenly differently, I started looking at everyone in my family as individuals and not in the roles that I had assigned to them. So for me, that was the biggest thing I got out of the film.
That's really interesting. And so, Achana, I'm sure everyone wants to know, how did your family respond when the film's finished and it's gone out there and it's been obviously playing all around the world?
So the biggest, the nicest thing for me was when my father saw the film, and then he was so upset that my mother needs these 10 minutes and he doesn't give it to her. So now every day in the evening, he asks her to read what she has written. So which is awesome, because like their relationship has kind of become better because of that, because he too is now interested in this other life of hers. So, and she has finished her book, so now she's like editing it and everything, so which is great. And so that was the biggest achievement, I think, of the film, like, you know, to have this change in my dad, to even he will like stop looking at her just like that, you know, in just, oh, it's in terms of need, but now his interest in her, and he's like, oh, I feels like I've met a new person, and she writes so beautifully, and he calls me up sometimes and he's like, oh, you know, mom has written such an amazing chapter and you should read it. And so that is really nice.
That is
And
a
otherwise the family, the extended family obviously loved the film, and there were too much laughing, crying, obviously very emotional experience for everyone. So but it was received like really positively, I think. So
I'm delighted to hear that, but also I'm reminded the power of film and art and culture, that sometimes we forget. We're just watching things and we just view them, but it's really exciting to hear you say that the actual influence of making something like this has actually brought about wonderful enrichment, if you like, and a change, which
exactly.
we don't see much, do we?
Yeah, so that was like really nice for me also. And now my mom is like, now my brother, he got married like during the film. Now he just had a baby like during the COVID. So he was all in lockdown, like never stepped out. So she's 5 months old, and my mother is obsessed with the baby. Like that's her new passion. Just my niece is like her thing, you know. All of us actually, we are obsessed with the baby.
That's really lovely to hear. It's wonderful to have an update that, you know, a new life. And Achana, it was very moving for me to be able to also see the transgenerational relationships within the apartment block. And I think someone, whether it was yourself or your sister or your brother, mentioned this sort of new changing life, like Mumbai is changing, Bombay is changing all the time. Do you think there's a chance that that sort of arrangement won't be around for much longer?
Yeah, definitely. Actually, now what is happening is like there is no space. Like the population in Mumbai is increasing exponentially, and now there is no space for horizontal expansion. So Bombay is expanding vertically. Also, and because of these structures, there's a lot of isolation. Also, like the kind of community I grew up in, I knew my neighbors. Like we used to shout from our balconies, and the other people were right there if you needed. Literally, like they show in the movies, you're out of sugar and you go to a neighbor and you're like, oh, please, can I have some? Oh, please, can you just take care of my cat for a while? Or my just leave the kid and just go away without like thinking twice. This used to happen a lot when I was growing up, and now, but the community has changed, shifted actually lots of it. Like my building will be like a rare thing to find where a joint family exists, you know, in Bombay. So that was something that I knew that was unique, like for this film, that all three generations living in one space. That was like we have our own space, but at the same time we are in each other's space all the time. So but yeah, but that is shifting very fast. Like now people are more individualistic, especially people of my generation, you know, which didn't have. So means there are good and bad points to it, but yeah, but that's this kind of family structure is kind of not present in Bombay as much anymore.
And Achana, one of the things that I really noticed, I guess, was the wonderful time that we had with everyone in the family, including the very moving scenes of your grandfather, who is getting slowly, more fragile, and then passes away sadly. And but somehow we're just there and we witness that. Was that ever a consideration for you to film that and to be there the whole time? Did everyone tell me
Yeah,
a bit?
so how it happened was that I was, like I said, like, I was always around when anything was happening. Obviously, like, I had not anticipated that this was going to happen. And the way actually it all happened was, like, he was really ill that day, but it wasn't the first time that he was ill. He used to get ill a lot and then he used to get better, it was like that. So I had filmed everything, and then I have this other office space where I had, like, me and my sister had actually gone, and I was transferring my footage and everything. And that's when I got a call saying your grandfather's passed away. And I was just like in shock. I couldn't understand what's happening. And then I came back home, and I did not have because I did not want to film. I did not have my camera or nothing. But then my sister was like, you should film this. I mean, whether you use it or not is up to you. So I actually shot that on my phone because that was all I had. Because I left because I didn't want to film actually. And I was feeling very strange while filming it because suddenly this distance was there. So it was a strange night because my grandmother, we actually told her to sleep in a different room. And she was like, no, because he passed away late night. And she was like, no, I will sleep with him, because in the Hindu religion we have these certain rituals that have to happen. So we had to keep his body inside the house till the morning, till 5 in the morning. Then it was taken to the funeral home. But so she insisted to sleep next to him. So that's the shot I got of the two of them sleeping. But then later on, after that, for 2 months I couldn't film at all because I was in this moral dilemma, that I should have done it, shouldn't have done it. Is it strange? It was very weird, even while editing, suddenly watching that material again. And in the end, because I was avoiding watching it, but eventually I had to. But then I thought that this is something I cannot hide as a filmmaker, because my gaze is very important in the film, and I chose to film it. So that tells something probably about me as well. So that I did not want to hide in that moment. Uh, so that's how it kind of. But in that moment, I wasn't. I was kind of. It's, you go numb, right? Like, it's only later on that you really experience loss. When it's happening, you're just like, okay, this has happened, but not sure what this means. So it was that kind of a moment then.
I want to say thank you to your sister for having
Yeah.
the presence of mind, because even though I understand completely what you're saying, you were in shock and didn't take your camera. For us as the viewer, we've been with your family up to this point, and it really did allow us, very respectfully, I felt, to take us on that final journey with your
Yeah.
grandmother. And I mean, there's so many things I want to talk to you about, like your framing. You say you only did a little bit and you're basically doing biotech. I mean, for God's sake, the framing that you have is it must be very instinctual, because there's so many lovely shots in the film. Even though we're inside this building and it could be very claustrophobic, you manage somehow also to have somehow an expansiveness and include people in different parts of the frame. Did you consciously think about that?
No, it was purely instinct. Like, while filming, like, it was just purely instinct. Like, even sometimes I zoom in, zoom out, and I've kept those, like, it looks so amateurish. Normally any editor would cut it out. But I was like, no, let's not hide these things. Like, let's show why I'm zoomed, because that's when then my character kind of comes into the film. Even if I'm not speaking, just the act that I decided to be on a close shot from a wide shot right there kind of very subconsciously shows what I'm thinking without saying it. So those were decisions that I took as well. But it took me some time to actually come to the way I'm filming. Like, in the beginning, I was shooting my parents exactly the way I was shooting my grandparents, which was very static. Like, there was little camera movement because I'd always kept it handheld, but it was mostly static to show. But then it was just not working. I was like, why am I filming like this? Let me pick up the energy of the character and move with them. So then with the parents, I kept all the shots moving. It was hardly ever static. It was just like they're moving from here to there to here. And when it comes to the grandparents, again, like, stop, which kind of shows the energy, the time, and like, their age, everything kind of, so it started emerging on its own. But I took some time to get to the form, just with a little here and there, trial and error. Yeah.
And what's very revealing, when you Archana, when you talk about taking time to get to this form, I love though that it does illustrate your grandparents are more static. Your dad, we never stop moving when he's moving around the house, and the energy that happens and the agitation between your dad and your mom about,
Yeah.
the annoyance that they have of some people
Yeah.
who've lived together forever. So why not? And then what I love though is actually your brother challenging you to give the camera over. I mean, there are so many layers in the film, and that is very telling to me, especially as a filmmaker myself, just about that. There was this incredible unease for a second of like, no.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. No, I'm comfortable behind it. I'm afraid to show myself,
And you didn't show yourself, but we very much know you're there. Look, I want to say thank you so much for taking the time, but before we go, could you tell us anything that's on the horizon for you, Ajana?
So yeah, so like I mentioned before, like I'm doing this Netflix documentary series. I'm working with Archive for the first time, which is super exciting. And I have a film in mind, but right now it's just, what happens is when you finish a film, then you're so exhausted, then you need a break. I wasn't able to do anything for 1 year. So I partied a lot. That's to get over it. Just like, okay, let's party, and then I realized, okay, now I have to come back to it, back to reality. And but the film did pretty well, which was, I'm very happy. Like I haven't got a lot of distribution, but it's being distributed in the United States with POV, which was nice. And because then you get some money back after making a documentary that has been self-funded, and you're like, thank God, I'm not completely broke, So I'm at that stage where right now I'm doing this job with the Netflix documentary at one end, but also I'm thinking of a project to probably start next year, which will be again very simple film. I'm hoping, like, it's a film about nothing. That's what I've been telling myself. I hope I can achieve it. That I would like to make a film that is about nothing, and still about a lot of things. So
Well, we cannot wait to see what you come up with next. And I'm hoping, these sort of films, they're pretty timeless. I do believe there would be an audience here in the UK for your film. So I'm hoping that still one day it might get picked up, because I must say, anyone who's watched this film and I've communicated with about this film have been deeply touched. So I'd just like to say thank you once again for Hebden Bridge Film Festival and our audience for allowing us into the intimate portrait of your life.
Thank you so much. And I'm actually quite excited that it's playing in the UK. It's been received really well in the UK. Like, also it has a huge Indian community, but still, like, in general, like, it's been great. So I'm very excited that it's playing finally since last year. Like, now it's like finally happening.